Hello everybody, welcome back into the Colored Gemstone Academy. I am Paul Deasy, your instructor. This is my YouTube channel, Paul Deasy Gemstones. Hope you're doing well. First, a little bit about my attire here. As you can see, we're still in Belize. Looking behind me is the Caribbean Sea and the beautiful beaches. And what I've been doing every single day is going out, walking the beaches up and down, north and south, and picking up any trash that I see. And obviously I've always been a big advocate for cleaning beaches. And I know in the past I've probably talked about, or at least if you've watched our Sunday Fun Day with Paul and Judy, we would buy something from 4Ocean. I get a bracelet and they say for every bracelet you buy, we'll remove 1 pound of trash or plastic from the ocean. Well, then I got here and I decided, since we have a place right here on the beach, I'd start just picking up any trash that I see. And I realized that was a much more effective way for me to contribute. I must have taken 30 pounds of trash off of this beach and put it into recycling. And actually I felt better about that. So I'm doing it every single day. So just as an aside, that's why I'm dressed the way that I am. Well, this is going to be a lesson by request. And it is a lesson on a gemstone called Seraphinite. This is, I believe it's episode 74 of the Colored Gemstone Academy. And that request came from a subscriber by the name of Kathy Bruce, and she and her husband live in Australia. And she was very interested in this stone. She thought it was beautiful, and she said, I don't really see it much in jewelry, but when I do, I really, really like it. So I decided to make this lesson all about Seraphinite. So first of all, I have to say I was really delighted to comply with her request about this lesson, because for me, it ticks all the right boxes. It's one of the reasons that I got into the gem business in the very first place. I love to find those sort of diamonds in the rough. Maybe a lot of people don't know about it. Even when we go to the Tucson Gem Show, Judy and I always find something there from some of our sources that I'd never heard of before. And I love to introduce you to them. And usually, which is in the case of the Seraphinite, it's actually an incredibly affordable gemstone. Okay, so first of all, what the heck is Seraphinite and why is it called Seraphinite? Well, Seraphinite is a trade name. It's like when I found that kind of black gemstone from Colorado, and I called it Colorado Black Moon. That's a trade name. I assigned it that name. Well, Seraphinite is kind of got its name the same way. It's actually part of a variety of clinochlore. Now, clinochlore is from a bigger group called the chlorine group. And chlorine is what gives the Seraphinite its color. But it also has a very strong chatoyancy, which we'll get to in a little bit. And that chatoyancy makes it appear like it has angel's wings. Sometimes it's referred to as the angel stone. So the name Seraphinite came from the Greek word for seraphim. And seraphim was a heavenly body, an angel, with 3 sets of wings. So thus it got the name Seraphinite. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so as is my custom in these gem lessons, I like to go with those sort of vital statistics I talk about, because a lot of times when you're trying to identify a gemstone, you need to know things like the hardness and the toughness and the stability and any treatments that might go along with that stone. What is the chemical composition of the stone? What is the crystal structure? All of those things. So let's begin with those vital statistics. All right, the chemical composition. Now this is probably the most important thing when you're trying to identify something, and it's a magnesium, iron, aluminum, silicate. Now that's going to be similar to some. In fact, I think I remember one of the, maybe it was the pyrope, has magnesium, it has silicone, it has aluminum, in the garnet group. Well, this is a different stone altogether, but it has that magnesium, iron, aluminum, silicate. The crystal structure is monoclinic. And again, a lot of times you can, if you're looking at a diamond that's cubic, or a garnet that's cubic versus hexagonal when you get into the sapphires and the rubies. So that's how you further identify that gemstone. Now, what is the color? Now, the color in this case is sort of a determining factor. You don't get a lot of different colors of Seraphinite because it's known as that green colored stone with a very strong chatoyancy, with those silver fibers. And it can be green to gray, but we really identify pretty much with the green. Hardness, 2 to 2.5 on the Mohs scale of hardness. Toughness considered fair to poor on the toughness scale. Remember the Mohs scale of hardness, what gem can scratch another gem? The toughness scale, how brittle is it to cracking and chipping altogether? So this, I'm going to get more into this later after we finish this segment. But that's why when Kathy said, I don't see it a lot and I don't see it much in jewelry, but when I see it in jewelry, I love it. Well, part of the reason is that hardness of 2 to 2.5, that toughness that's not very great either. We'll get to more on that later. Refractive index, that's the sparkle of the gemstone. Again, not known to sparkle like a diamond, but this still nonetheless has a refractive index of 1.576 to 1.599. Now, it's still pretty good sparkle, but most of that is coming from those little white fibers that make up the angel wings. That's really the sparkle that you're getting off of this particular gemstone. Now, specific gravity, again, that's the heft of the stone, about 2.55 to 2.75. So kind of in that sort of range of like quartz. Now, how about treatments? I don't know that it's treated that much. In certain instances, they might take, because again, not a good hardness, and do a polymer that they try and compress into the stone or force into the stone, much like you see with turquoise, which they call stabilization, because that would help increase the durability of that stone. However, what you need to know about this is that, yes, the hardness is only 2 to 2.5, but it doesn't mean that you can't wear it as jewelry. In fact, if we were worried about soft stones in jewelry, we probably would never make a pearl ring or a pearl bracelet. So my advice to you is just use common sense, and your Seraphinite will last you a lifetime, if not many, many generations. So what are those common sense things, rules to follow? Number one, if you're going to be hitting your hand a lot, if you're involved in a sport, you know, a pickleball is really popular now. You don't want to wear probably any of your jewelry, let alone your soft jewelry. Same thing if you're going to go swimming. You're saying, oh, wait a minute, what's swimming going to do if I'm wearing that? I'm not hitting it against anything. Well, don't forget, and I said this in the lesson, I think, when I was talking about gold. Chlorine is a very harsh chemical. So you don't want to expose your gemstones to a harsh chemical. I don't care what the gemstone is. So you're cleaning, what I almost say recommend for all of your gemstones, regardless of what they are. Warm soapy water. That mild detergent that I talk about, like the Dawn dishwashing detergent used by hand. That warm soapy water, lint-free cloth is pretty much all you need to take care of your Seraphinite as well as many other gemstones. Okay, so one, we talked about, you know, Kathy's request and why do I not see it in jewelry. We said number one, okay, it's not a very hard or durable stone. Okay, now let's talk about number two, because why do I tick the boxes as this being kind of right at my wheelhouse of gems I like to talk about? Well, it's a very strongly chatoyant gemstone. Now, what does chatoyant mean? Chatoyancy is an optical phenomenon. Now, for those of you that have been with me for a long time, I did a lesson early on, I think it was lesson 11, and it was called Phenomenal Gemstones. Now remember, phenomenal gemstone, and if you haven't seen it, go back, you can watch it. All my lessons live on there. And see what I say about phenomenal gemstones. They exhibit a certain optical phenomenon. And the problem with most of your phenomenal gemstones, like an alexandrite, or a star sapphire, star ruby, Most of them are pretty expensive gemstones because of that optical phenomenon. Well, this one is the exception. It's a very strongly chatoyant gemstone with those angel's wings, but it is incredibly affordable. You could probably go online right now, look on eBay for polished stones of Seraphinite. It might just be a couple of bucks. I mean, really pretty nice specimens, which means for somebody like me, if I go to a trade show and I'm buying the rough by the pound and then sending it to a factory to be processed, you know, you might be talking 30, 40, 50 bucks. Well, the way I usually buy better. Probably if you were just going, you might find 60, 70 bucks a pound for the rough, which means I might find my buddy out there in the southwest US and Mexico probably find, you know, a 50-pound drum for like 25 bucks a pound. And of course, still got to ship it, still got to, you know, cut it, process it, but it's still a very affordable gemstone when you break it down. Now, what do I mean when I say it's a pretty strong chatoyancy? Now remember, chatoyancy, there's these needle-like inclusions in a chatoyant stone. And most of you are probably familiar with something like a tiger's eye, which is usually sort of that yellow stone. Sometimes you see different colors. Sometimes you see red, but usually those are dyed. But those needle-like inclusions are arranged in a certain way that you see that cat's eye effect of tiger's eye. And there's other gemstones that have that cat's eye effect. In this case, it's a very different phenomenon. It's not the, I mean, it's still chatoyancy, but it's not the cat's eye effect. You see what looks like angel's wings. And in most cases, you don't have to like squint to make out what those angel's wings are, that chatoyancy. It's really prominent in this stone. And I brought up this example during my last Q&A series. When Judy and I were in Brazil, we were looking for other gems, and we were in a factory called Bella Pedra, beautiful stone. And they had a whole area outside of this factory that had drums and drums and drums of rough, and one of them was that Seraphinite. And I mean, in almost every single example, you could see how strong that chatoyancy was. So finally, in my topic of why it ticks off all the boxes for me of a gem that I like to deal with. Again, we talked about the affordability of it, we talked about the uniqueness of that chatoyancy, but also the color. And I know it's kind of funny. I always like to find things that a lot of people don't know much about them, and I really get a charge out of it. I mean, it's kind of like when I found the pristine out in Nevada, or that Colorado Black Moon. This is one, there aren't a lot, when you start to think about it, there aren't a lot of gems that are primarily in the green color of gems. And when you start to think about it, how many can you think of? You think of the emerald. You think of maybe a green sapphire, or perhaps a green tourmaline. And then the chrome diopside, but then you start getting into the opaques, and that list seems to get even shorter. Sure, you can see some green turquoise, although some of those are dyed, but this one is really kind of naturally green. You might tend to see it to the gray, but it's primarily green, and there aren't a lot of those green gemstones to go around. Okay, so finally, and you know I don't get too much into the metaphysical properties of gemstones. I know a lot of people are really into that. And I'm not saying that there isn't any merit to that. I really do believe that gems and crystals have certain properties that perhaps some of us may never understand. Now, as I said in other lessons, when somebody says, well, amethyst can prevent drunkenness, I can tell you for a fact that's not true. But conversely, I talked about my friend in the Tucson Gem Show, David Geiger, and he showed me almost the magnetic attraction and appeal of some of these gemstones. So there's something to that. So I will tell you that there's certain people that will say because it's the angel stone that it's a spiritual stone and might be good to have around. And again, who am I to say that there may be power in that or there may not be power? We've all had unexplained things that happened in our lives. But if you feel like that's something that it would be worth it for you, that's another reason to get this stone. But that's going to wrap it up on this one. And again, this came from a request from a subscriber. So if you are a subscriber who has a request of another gem that you'd like to learn more about, just shoot me on the comments, what you'd like to learn about, and I'll do my level best to do that. Also, as I mentioned, since I was out of commission for a little over a month, a lot of the messages that you did send, I think Facebook only keeps them for maybe 30 days. So a lot of them have gone away without me having a chance to answer. So if you sent me something previously that I haven't answered, I may not be able to access that. So send me the request again, and I'll get to it if I can. So thank you so much for watching this episode, which was episode 74, which is the Seraphinite. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I know that still to this day people get worried, like it's a magazine subscription and you're going to have to renew it and pay all this money. No, it just means that you are part of my team, and it doesn't cost you a thing, and it allows me to continue to do these lessons for free. So thank you so much for our little lesson on Seraphinite. I'll see you all next week with another lesson from the Colored Gemstone Academy. Bye, everybody.